The council chamber stretched wide enough to hold 3 Earth stadiums. Walked through the massive doors, her boots clicking on the crystal floor. Above her, holographic displays showed hundreds of alien species watching from across the galaxy. She kept her face calm, though her heart beat faster than normal. The chamber belonged to the Empire, the most powerful force in known space. They controlled 847 star systems. Their ships could destroy planets. Their technology made Earth's best science look like children playing with rocks. Everyone knew this. They made sure everyone knew this. Wore her diplomatic uniform, deep blue with Earth's symbol on the shoulder. At her side hung a sword in a plain black sheath. The blade had belonged to her family for 400 years. She carried it everywhere, even here, even now. The human approaches. A voice boomed through the chamber. It came from High Commander, a creature that looked like a giant insect made of metal. His 4 eyes focused on as she reached the center platform. Around the circular room sat the leadership. Admiral slouched in his chair, his scaled body taking up space meant for 3 beings. Counselor floated in a tank of purple liquid, tentacles twitching with what had learned meant amusement. Dozens of other officials filled the remaining seats, all watching her with various expressions ranging from curiosity to contempt. Ambassador of Earth announced, "You come seeking membership in the Galactic Council." "Yes," said. Her voice carried through the chamber without shouting. She had practiced that for weeks. Translator box crackled to life. Earth, the small blue world with 1 moon, population 8 billion, technology level rated primitive by galactic standards. "We have advanced significantly in recent years," replied. Admiral leaned forward. His mouth split into what might have been a smile, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Advanced, we have reviewed your military capabilities. You use kinetic weapons, bullets and missiles. You still burn chemical fuel to escape your own gravity well." Laughter rippled through the chamber. The sound came from dozens of different alien species, creating a noise like grinding metal mixed with chirping birds. Stood still, waiting. "She carries a blade," one official pointed out, his voice high and whistling. "Look, an actual primitive weapon." More laughter. His hand did not move toward the sword. She kept both arms relaxed at her sides. Counselor spoke again. "Ambassador, your species is young, violent. Your planet has known constant war for its entire recorded history. You have barely reached your own neighboring planets. What makes you think you are ready for galactic society?" "We have learned from our mistakes," said. "We have unified our world. We seek peaceful cooperation with other species." "Peaceful?" Eyes glittered. "Your broadcasts show otherwise. We have monitored your history. Wars over resources, over ideology, over pieces of land. Millions dead in conflicts using primitive weapons. And you want to join us?" "Our past does not define our future," answered. Admiral stood up, his massive body making the platform shake. "Here is what we offer, human. The Empire extends protection to minor species. You will accept our guidance. You will provide resources to the Empire. You will allow our ships to use your system as a staging point. In return, we will not allow other empires to destroy you." Tilted her head slightly. "That sounds like vassalage, not membership." "Call it what you wish," said. "It is the best offer a species like yours will receive. You are too weak for true membership. Look at you. 1 woman with an antique sword asking giants for a seat at their table." "We prefer to stand alone," said quietly. The laughter stopped. The chamber grew silent. Admiral moved closer to the edge of his platform, looking down at from his great height. "You refuse our offer." His voice dropped low, dangerous. "We respectfully decline," said. "Earth will develop on its own terms. We will trade with those who wish to trade as equals. We will defend ourselves if necessary." "Defend yourselves." His mandibles clicked together rapidly, a sign of extreme amusement. "With what? Your chemical rockets, your kinetic weapons." Met his gaze, with whatever we must. Counselor's tentacles swirled in the purple liquid. This is foolishness. The galaxy is not kind to those who refuse protection. Pirates, raiders, empires that are far less generous than they will come for your world. They will take what they want, and you will wish you had accepted our offer. Perhaps acknowledged, but we will face that future on our feet, not on our knees. Admiral laughed, a deep rumbling sound. Brave words from a species that barely survived their own planetary conflicts. Tell me, human, why do you carry that sword? Do you plan to fight our warships with it? It reminds me where we came from, said. And where is that? Asked. A place where we learned that threats and mockery are what the weak use when they fear they might be wrong. The chamber erupted in noise. Some officials shouted, others laughed harder. Eyes blazed brighter. Admiral's teeth showed fully now, no longer in anything resembling a smile. You dare insult us? His voice made the crystal floor vibrate. I state facts, replied calmly. Earth will not accept vassalage. If that offends you, I apologize for wasting your time. She turned to leave. Every eye in the chamber followed her movement. Her hand rested naturally near her sword, though she did not draw it. She simply walked back straight toward the massive doors. You make a mistake, human, called after her. The galaxy will teach you lessons Earth cannot protect you from. Paused at the doorway, she looked back over her shoulder. We have spent 10,000 years teaching ourselves the hardest lessons. The galaxy will find us ready. The doors closed behind her with a deep boom. Outside in the docking corridor, Sora waited by their ship. His younger sister saw her face and asked no questions. They had been together too long for that. How bad? Sora asked as they walked. They offered vassalage. I refused. Sora whistled softly. The government will love that. The government sent me to seek membership, not slavery, said. I did my job. They reached their ship, a small vessel called the Silent Dawn. It looked tiny compared to the warships docked nearby. Those ships could destroy cities. This ship could barely defend itself against a fighter. As climbed aboard, she touched the sword at her side. The blade had seen war. It had been carried by her ancestors through conflicts Earth preferred to forget. It had tasted blood and known victory and defeat. They had laughed at it. They had laughed at Earth. Wondered if they would still be laughing in a month, or a year, or when they learned what humanity had been building since the first alien ship had entered their system 20 years ago. The Silent Dawn lifted off, leaving the council chamber behind. In the viewing screens, watched the massive space station shrink into the distance. Somewhere on that station, the council was probably still laughing about the primitive human and her antique sword. Let them laugh, thought. Let them laugh while they still could. 3 weeks passed since left the council chamber. Earth's government had not been happy with her report, but they supported her decision. The debate in the World Assembly lasted 5 days before they voted. Earth would stand alone. On the 23rd day, they came to Sol system. Was home in Seoul, sitting in her small apartment overlooking the Han River, when the alert sounded. Every screen in the city switched to emergency broadcast. Every phone buzzed with the same message. Unknown vessels had entered the solar system. Not unknown, everyone knew who they were. Sora arrived at its door within minutes. How many ships? Asked, already pulling on her uniform. Scanning shows 12, Sora said. Patrol class. They are broadcasting on all frequencies. What do they say? They claim inspection rights. They say Earth is now in their sphere of influence and must submit to security protocols. Finished fastening her sword to her belt. That is not what we agreed to. We did not agree to anything, Sora pointed out. That is the problem. The ships positioned themselves throughout the solar system. 1 near Mars, 3 in the asteroid belt, 2 near Jupiter. The rest scattered around Earth itself, scanning everything. Orbital defense platforms, satellites, ships, even ground installations. They broadcast their findings across galactic networks. Primitive, the transmission said with clear contempt. Missile arrays using chemical propulsion. Point defense lasers barely capable of damaging our shields. Earth's military technology is 300 years behind galactic standard. No threat to anyone but themselves. The galaxy watched. Hundreds of species saw the scans. They saw Earth's weapons measured and found wanting. Some felt pity. Others felt satisfaction. A few felt something else, though they did not say so publicly. On the fourth day, they sent their demands to Earth's government. The list was long. Resources from asteroid mining, technology sharing of all human research, basing rights for ships in every major orbital station, regular tribute payments, and submission to authority in all external matters. They want everything but our dignity, the Earth President said during the Emergency Council meeting. And they will take that too, given time. What are our options? Someone asked. We can fight, the defense minister said, or we can surrender. Fighting means losing, another voice added. Their ships outgun ours 20-1, more if they bring their main fleet. Sat at the table listening, finally she spoke, send me back. To negotiate, the president asked. To buy time. The president studied her face. They had known each other for years since before became ambassador. What are you planning? My job said, I will negotiate. They sent her back to space on the Silent Dawn. This time, she brought companions, a strategic officer who specialized in analyzing alien psychology, a young Marine who served as security, and Sara, always Sara, who piloted them through the void. The journey took 6 days. During that time, the ships remained in Sol system, scanning and cataloging everything. They did not attack, not yet, but everyone knew they would if Earth refused. On the 7th day, it happened. Was 3 hours from the capital station when the emergency transmission came through. Sara put it on the main screen without saying a word. The footage showed Titan, Saturn's largest moon. Earth had established a mining colony there 15 years ago. 3,000 people lived under the domes, extracting resources and conducting research. The strike force consisted of just 3 ships. They appeared without warning. They did not hail the colony. They did not offer surrender. They simply opened fire. The domes shattered. Atmosphere vented into space. People died before they could reach emergency suits. The weapons were precise, methodical. They destroyed the habitat sections first, then the power generators, then the mining facilities. The entire attack lasted 7 minutes. 3,000 people, dead 7 minutes. They broadcast the footage across the galaxy. Their message was simple and clear. This is what happens when minor species refuse protection. This is the consequence of pride. Earth will submit or Earth will burn. Watched the footage 3 times. Her face remained calm, but her hand gripped the sword so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Stood beside her, his own expression carefully neutral. Looked young suddenly, younger than his 23 years, staring at the screen with wide eyes. They killed civilians, whispered. Miners, scientists, children. They sent a message, said quietly. They want Earth to know what defiance costs. Sara did not speak. She simply adjusted their course, increasing speed toward the station. When they arrived, Admiral himself greeted in the docking bay. His scaled face showed satisfaction. He gestured to the sword at her hip. Still carrying your little blade, human. Perhaps you wish to challenge our fleet with it. Looked at him. I wish to negotiate. There is nothing to negotiate, said. You saw Titan. You saw what happens to those who refuse us. Your government has 48 hours to accept our terms, all of them, or we will demonstrate again. Perhaps on Mars this time, or one of your orbital cities. I requested 72 hours, said. Laughed. You are in no position to request anything. 48 hours. Then we begin destroying your colonies one by one until your leaders understand reality." The negotiations lasted 12 hours. Sat across from Counselor, Admiral, and High Commander. She presented Earth's counteroffers. They rejected everything. She asked for concessions. They refused. She requested humanitarian considerations. They laughed. "Your species is learning an important lesson," said through his translator. "In the galaxy, strength is everything. You have no strength. Therefore, you have no rights." "Strength takes many forms," replied. "Philosophy will not save your colonies," his mechanical voice buzzed. "Weapons save colonies. You have no weapons that frighten us." Stood up from the table. 48 hours, you said. "Yes," confirmed. "We will wait here for your government's surrender. I suggest you convince them quickly. Our gunners are eager for practice." Walked out of the negotiation room and followed. They made their way back to the Silent Dawn in silence. Other beings in the station watched them pass. Some looked sympathetic, most looked indifferent. Death and conquest were normal in the galaxy. Sora had the ship ready to launch before they even boarded. "I heard the news broadcasts," she said. "The galaxy thinks Earth will surrender." "What do you think?" asked. Sora smiled, cold and sharp. "I think they should not have killed our people." The Silent Dawn launched from the station, heading back toward Sol system. Behind them, the Third Fleet was already assembling. 600 ships, intelligence had reported, the largest fleet that had deployed in 50 years. They were bringing overwhelming force to crush a primitive species that dared say no. Inside the Silent Dawn, sat in her cabin. She removed her sword from its sheath for the first time since arriving in space. The blade gleamed in the soft light. 400 years old, but the edge remained perfect. Molecular enhancement had made it sharper than any ancient smith could have dreamed. She cleaned the blade with careful motions, using the ritual her father had taught her. The meditation helped her think. The expected surrender. They expected Earth to bend. They expected fear. Thought about the faces in the Titan footage, the domes exploding, the bodies floating in the vacuum. 3,000 lives ended to make a point. She finished cleaning the blade and held it up, examining the edge. Perfect. Ready. "Let them assemble their fleet," she said quietly to the empty cabin. "Let them come to Sol system with all their might. Let them laugh while they still can." Through the stars streamed past as the Silent Dawn raced toward home. Behind them, the Empire prepared for war. They thought it would be easy. They thought Earth would break quickly. They were about to learn their first lesson about humanity, the hard way. Sheathed her sword and smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. It was the smile of someone who had seen violence before and was not afraid of seeing it again. 48 hours until the deadline. 48 hours until the galaxy learned that Earth's silence had not been weakness. It had been preparation. The Silent Dawn crossed into Sol system 12 hours after leaving space. Expected to see chaos. Emergency broadcasts, panic, ships fleeing. Instead, she found something stranger. Silence. "All civilian traffic has stopped," Sora reported from the pilot station. "No commercial vessels moving, no pleasure craft, even the mining ships are gone." "Military?" asked. "Everything has pulled back inside the defense perimeter," Sora said, studying her screens. "Wait, that is wrong. They are not just pulled back. I am reading power signatures I have never seen before." Moved to look at the displays. Earth's orbital defense platforms were active, but different somehow. Energy readings showed levels that should not be possible with their known technology. The platforms had always been there, visible and catalogued, but now they hummed with power. "Take us to Mars Station," ordered. "We need to report to command." But when they tried to contact Mars Station, they got nothing, no response. The station was still there, still powered, but silent. They tried Earth Command. Silent. Lunar Base. Silent. "What is happening?" asked, his hand resting on his weapon. Check the chronometer. 36 hours remained until the deadline. They are preparing, she said. Earth is going dark. She was right. Over the next 6 hours, every human facility in Sol system went silent. Broadcast stations stopped transmitting. Ships stopped sending identification signals. Communication satellites stopped responding to external queries. To the galaxy watching from outside, it looked like Earth had given up. Like they were hiding, hoping that would show mercy. Intelligence agencies from a dozen empires tried to penetrate the communication blackout. All failed. Earth's networks had become walls of encryption and silence. The Third Fleet assembled at the edge of Sol system, just beyond the orbit of Neptune. 600 ships, each one larger than Earth's biggest vessel. Admiral commanded from his flagship, a massive dreadnought called the Infinite Authority. Broadcast a message across the galaxy, making sure everyone would see what came next. People of Earth, his voice boomed. Your time has expired. You have refused reasonable terms. You have insulted the Empire. Now you will learn the price of defiance. We will begin with your Mars colonies, then your asteroid habitats, then your orbital stations. We will not stop until your government surrenders unconditionally. Watch and understand your place in the galaxy. The broadcast reached every corner of known space. Billions of beings across hundreds of worlds watched. Some felt pity for the doomed humans. Others felt this was a necessary lesson for an upstart species. A few, very few, felt uneasy. They had read Earth's history. They knew what humans were capable of doing to each other. But none spoke up. No one interfered. The Empire was too powerful to challenge over the fate of one primitive world. Watched broadcast from a bunker deep beneath Sol. Around her, Earth's leadership had gathered. The president, the defense minister, military commanders, civilian officials, all of them calm, all of them determined. "Do we have confirmation?" the president asked. "All systems are ready," the defense minister replied. "The fleet has been waiting for 20 years. They are ready." Civilian evacuation. Complete. Every habitat, every station, every ship. Everyone is inside the hardened zones. Listened to the reports with half her attention. The other half focused on the sword resting across her knees. She had drawn it earlier and was cleaning it again, the ritual movements helping her stay centered. Around her, people checked weapons and equipment. Soldiers prepared for deployment. Command staff reviewed battle plans. Sora sat beside her sister, checking her pilot gear. "They think we will surrender," she said quietly. "They are wrong," replied. "The fleet is enormous, 600 ships. Numbers are not everything." Sora smiled slightly. "You sound like grandfather." Thought about their grandfather, who had served in Earth's last major war before unification. He had taught her about combat, about strategy, about the difference between looking strong and being strong. He had given her this sword and told her its history. 400 years of conflict. 400 years of lessons learned in blood. "Grandfather would say they made a mistake," said. "What mistake?" "They think we are like them. They think we will break when threatened, but they forget something important." "What?" Met her sister's eyes. "We are not afraid of war. We are afraid of forgetting how terrible it is. Those are different things." 24 hours before the deadline, received her orders. She was to take the Silent Dawn out to meet the fleet. One last diplomatic mission. One final chance for peace. Everyone knew what it really meant. It was a message, a warning. Joined her on the ship, as did. Sora prepared the vessel for launch. As they lifted off from Earth, looked down at the planet below. Continents and oceans, clouds and cities. 8 billion people living their lives, trusting that their leaders would protect them. She would not fail them. The journey through the solar system took hours. The Silent Dawn was fast but not military fast. Along the way, they passed through the defense perimeter. That was when finally saw what Earth had been building. The orbital platforms were not platforms at all. They were dimensional anchors holding stable points in spacetime. Between them, almost invisible, stretched a web of quantum filaments. Sensors showed her what Sara had detected earlier. Power. Enormous amounts of power waiting. "They will not detect this," said, studying the readings. "They scanned these platforms weeks ago. They saw and missiles." "Because that is what we showed them," replied. "We have had 20 years to prepare, 20 years since the first contact. We did not waste that time." They moved deeper into the system, past Mars, past the asteroid belt, toward the outer planets. Everywhere looked, she saw signs of preparation. Ships that looked civilian but read military. Mining equipment that was actually weapons platforms. Research stations that housed tactical command centers. Earth had not been idle during 2 decades of peace. Earth had been learning, studying, building, preparing for the day someone decided humanity was too weak to respect. The fleet waited beyond Neptune, massive and confident. 600 ships displaying their power openly. They wanted Earth to see their might and despair. The silent dawn emerged from the cloud, that distant region of ice and rock at the edge of the solar system. Such a tiny ship, such a small gesture against such overwhelming force. Stood on the bridge as they approached the fleet. She wore her diplomatic uniform, her sword at her side. Behind her, and stood ready. Sara piloted them straight toward the infinite authority. "They are hailing us," Sara reported. "Open the channel," said. "All frequencies. I want the galaxy to hear this." The screen activated, showing Admiral on his command deck. He looked amused, seeing the small human ship approaching his fleet. "Ambassador," said, "have you come to surrender?" "No," replied calmly. "I have come to give you one last chance to withdraw." Laughed, his officers laughed. The sound echoed through the bridge of the infinite authority. "Withdraw, you are one ship facing 600. Your world has 48 hours to submit. Now you waste time with empty threats." His hand rested on her sword. 20 years ago, when your scouts first entered our system, we were unprepared. We barely drove them off. We lost thousands of people. After that, we made a choice. "What choice?" His amusement faded slightly. "We decided this would never happen again. We spent 20 years studying your technology, learning your tactics, preparing for the day you returned." His voice remained calm, but her eyes were hard. "You laughed at our kinetic weapons. You dismissed our chemical rockets. You mocked this sword." She drew the blade slowly, letting the light catch its edge. 400 years old, molecularly perfect, sharp enough to cut through modern armor. "This sword reminds me what we were," continued. "Warriors who spent 10,000 years learning how to kill each other efficiently. We unified our world not because we became peaceful. We unified because we became too dangerous to fight among ourselves, so we looked outward instead." Leaned forward on his command throne. "You threaten us with history lessons." "I offer you truth," said. "You killed 3,000 of our people at Titan. You did it to frighten us, to make us submit, but you made a mistake." "What mistake?" Smiled cold and sharp. "You made us point all our weapons at you instead of each other. Withdraw your fleet now. Leave our system. Never return. This is your last chance." The laughter returned, louder than before. His officers howled with mirth. Other ships in the fleet picked up the transmission and added their own mockery. "Last chance," roared. "You are one ship, one woman with a sword. You think you can threaten 600 warships." Sheathed her blade with a sharp click. The sound cut through the laughter. 48 hours, she said. "You gave us that deadline. I am giving you the same. Withdraw or learn why humanity survived 10,000 years of trying to destroy itself." She gestured to Sara. The channel closed. The silent dawn turned and began moving back toward Earth, small and alone against the vast fleet. Behind them, they laughed. They broadcast the exchange across the galaxy. "Look at the primitive humans," they said. "Look at their pathetic defiance." But did not care about their laughter. She cared about the chronometer counting down. 47 hours, 53 minutes until the deadline. Until they crossed into human space. Until they learned the truth. The silent dawn slipped back through the cloud, disappearing from sensors. Inside the ship sat in silence, holding her sword, thinking, remembering. Her grandfather's words came back to her. Never start a fight, he had said, but if someone forces you to fight, end it completely. They had started this fight at Titan. They had killed 3,000 innocent people. Now Earth would end it. Completely. The deadline arrived on a Tuesday morning, Earth Standard Time. Across the planet, people gathered in shelters, in bunkers, in hardened facilities built over 2 decades. They watched screens showing the Third Fleet beginning its advance into Sol system. 600 ships moving in perfect formation. The galaxy watched with them, billions of beings across hundreds of worlds witnessing what they thought would be Earth's destruction. Admiral broadcast from the Infinite Authority as his fleet crossed the boundary where Neptune's orbit began. People of Earth, your time is over. Surrender now and we will show mercy. Resist and we will reduce your colonies to dust. No response came from Earth. The planet remained silent, dark, waiting. The fleet advanced, past Neptune, past Uranus, heading towards Saturn and the ruins of Titan where they had demonstrated their power 3 weeks ago. Their formation was textbook perfect, designed to intimidate and overwhelm. Ships spread across millions of kilometers, sensors active, weapons charged. They looked unstoppable. Watched from Earth Command, deep beneath Sol. Around her, the military leadership stood at their stations. The defense minister spoke quietly into her headset. Tactical officers monitored displays showing every ship in the system. The president stood beside, both of them calm. They have crossed into Saturn's orbit, an officer reported. Confirmed, another voice added. All enemy ships are within the engagement zone. The defense minister looked at the president. Ready on your order. The president turned too. For a moment their eyes met. Then the president nodded, raised her hand, and gave a single word. Now. Across Sol system, Earth's true defenses activated. The orbital platforms that they had scanned and dismissed as primitive weapons changed. Their outer shells fell away like dead skin, revealing what lay beneath. Not missiles. Dimensional anchors, each one generating a stable field in space-time. The quantum filaments between them activated, creating a web across the entire solar system, invisible to normal sensors, undetectable until it was too late. The web did not attack. It simply existed, holding space stable in ways that made certain technologies impossible to use. In the fleet, alarms started screaming. Our jump drives are offline, an officer shouted on the Infinite Authority's bridge. Quantum communications are failing, another yelled. Shields are fluctuating. Admiral stood from his command throne, scales bristling. What is happening? His sensor officer checked the displays, mandibles clicking in confusion. The humans have created a dimensional damping field across their entire system. Our drives cannot engage. Our shields are at half power. Communications are being disrupted. Then we fight with what we have, snarled. All ships advance, target the inner planets. The fleet pushed forward. 600 ships, even with reduced shields and no escape capability, still represented overwhelming firepower. They could still destroy Earth's colonies. They could still win this fight. That was when Earth's real weapons appeared. From Jupiter's gravity well, objects launched at impossible speeds. Relativistic kill vehicles, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. They had been orbiting the gas giant for years, waiting, invisible until they moved. The first salvo consisted of 50 projectiles. Each one was the size of a cargo container, made of dense tungsten, moving at 20% light speed. When they hit ships, they did not explode. They simply passed through. The kinetic energy was so enormous that shields meant nothing. Armor meant nothing. The projectiles punched through dreadnoughts like bullets through paper, leaving trails of devastated metal and venting atmosphere. 15 ships died in the first 3 seconds. Evasive action screamed, "Scatter the formation." But scattering meant exposing their flanks, and Earth had prepared for that too. From the asteroid belt, what they had catalogued as mining drones activated. Millions of them. Each one was a small weapons platform equipped with AI targeting systems and plasma cutters originally designed for mining operations. Individually, they were no threat to a warship. But there were millions of them. They swarmed the fleet like insects, thousands attacking each ship simultaneously. They cut through sensor arrays, weapon mounts, engine housings. The point defenses tried to respond, but there were too many targets. For every drone destroyed, 10 more took its place. "This is impossible," tactical officer reported. "They had 20 years to seed the asteroid belt. Our scans showed only mining equipment." "Because that is what it was," said from Earth Command, watching the battle unfold on the screens. Around her, officers tracked every ship, every weapon, every movement. "We simply made our mining equipment very, very sharp." The fleet tried to regroup. They formed defensive spheres, ships protecting each other. It was a good tactic against conventional forces. Earth did not use conventional forces. The quantum communication network that they relied on was scrambled by the dimensional field. Earth's network, based on different principles developed in isolation, worked perfectly. Every drone, every weapon platform, every ship connected instantaneously. They moved like a single organism, adapting in real time to tactics. "Antimatter signatures," a sensor officer screamed. "Multiple contacts throughout the debris field." The mines had been placed over 2 decades, disguised as ordinary space junk. Shattered satellites, broken asteroids, discarded equipment. The fleet had scanned right past them, seeing nothing but garbage. Now they activated. Antimatter explosions bloomed throughout the formation. Small amounts, carefully placed. Each mine took out a single ship or damaged multiple vessels. The shields, already weakened by the dimensional field, could not stop the matter-antimatter reactions. Another 40 ships died. Admiral watched his fleet dissolving around him. In 17 minutes of combat, the Third Fleet had lost nearly 100 ships. His remaining vessels were scattered, damaged, fighting against weapons they could not track and tactics they could not counter. "How?" he whispered. "They were primitive, we scanned them, we knew their capabilities." On Earth Command's screen heard his words through intercepted communications. She spoke quietly, though he could not hear her. "You knew what we showed you. We spent 20 years learning from our first contact. We learned from you, and we learned from our own history." She gestured to the tactical display. "Humans have spent 10,000 years perfecting one skill, making war. We fought with sticks and stones, then bronze and iron, then guns and bombs, then nuclear weapons and orbital strikes. We learned every trick, every tactic, every strategy for killing other humans." Sara, standing beside her sister in the command center, added, "You just gave us a new enemy to point those skills at." The Silent Dawn had returned to Earth's fleet during the battle, now received new orders. "Take command of the assault wings," the defense minister said. "Finish this." Boarded the Silent Dawn with Sara but the ship was different now. The civilian facade fell away, revealing military-grade weapons and shields. It had always been a warship, disguised as a diplomatic vessel. They launched from Earth, joining 50 other ships of similar design. Fast attack craft that looked harmless but carried enough firepower to threaten capital ships. Earth's real navy had been hidden in plain sight for 20 years. The fleet moved through the battle zone at high speed, coordinated the attack from her command station, her tactical training finally put to full use. She had not always been a diplomat. Before peace, before unification, she had been a ship captain during Earth's last conflicts. "Target the Infinite Authority," she ordered. "All ships, formation Delta 7. Her fleet swept towards flagship, moving between debris and explosions with practiced precision. They tried to intercept, but their command structure was breaking down. Without quantum communications, their coordination suffered. Earth's network gave their smaller ships a devastating advantage. The Silent Dawn led the attack, and had armed it with something special. A prototype weapon developed from first contact wreckage and human engineering. It was shaped like a blade, a focused energy beam that could cut through shields and armor like her sword cut through air. "Weapons charged," Sora reported. "Fire," said calmly. The beam struck the Infinite Authority's shields and sliced through them. The blade-like weapon carved into the flagship's hull, cutting a precise line through its superstructure. Not enough to destroy the massive ship, but enough to cripple its main weapons and engines. "This is for Titan," whispered. Admiral's ship began venting atmosphere. Emergency systems activated, trying to contain the damage. Around the flagship, the remaining fleet saw their commander's vessel crippled and knew the battle was lost. Across all frequencies, messages started broadcasting from ships. Surrender requests, pleas for mercy, offers of negotiation. The battle had lasted 17 minutes. The Third Fleet, 600 strong, had been reduced to fewer than 400 operational vessels. Many of those were damaged. None could escape due to the dimensional field. All were surrounded by Earth's weapons. In Earth Command, the President spoke into the communication system, broadcasting to the fleet on all channels. "Forces, this is Earth Command. You entered our system with hostile intent. You murdered 3,000 of our people. You threatened our world. We gave you a chance to withdraw. You laughed." The President paused, letting the words sink in across the galaxy. Billions of beings were watching this broadcast, seeing Earth's demonstration of power. "You will now surrender unconditionally. Your ships will be escorted to holding positions. Your crews will be treated according to laws of war. Any vessel that attempts to escape or resume hostilities will be destroyed without warning." Silence filled the void. Then slowly, ships began broadcasting their surrender codes. Admiral watched from his crippled flagship as his fleet gave up. His 4 eyes stared at the tactical display showing how completely Earth had outmaneuvered him. Primitive weapons, he had said. Primitive species. He had been so very wrong. Piloted the Silent Dawn back toward Earth, watching the ships power down their weapons. Around her, Sora and were quiet. The battle was over. The victory was complete. But felt no joy, only tired satisfaction. War was never something to celebrate, even when it was necessary. She touched the sword at her side, thinking of her grandfather's words again. Never start a fight, but if forced to fight, end it completely. Earth had ended it. The galaxy had seen. And nothing would ever be the same. The Empire sued for peace 6 days after the Battle of Saul. Their ambassadors arrived with gifts, apologies, and promises. Earth accepted their surrender with simple terms. Leave Saul system. Never return without invitation. Pay reparations for the Titan massacre. Respect Earth's sovereignty. They agreed to everything. News of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed communication. Every species saw the footage. The primitive humans with their chemical rockets and kinetic weapons had destroyed a fleet, not just defeated it, demolished it, in 17 minutes. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. They sent a formal invitation to Earth, not a request, an invitation. The difference was significant. Received the message while standing in the ruins of Titan Colony. Earth had sent recovery teams to collect the dead and begin rebuilding. She walked through the shattered domes, seeing the scorch marks from weapons. 3,000 people had died here, 3,000 lives taken to make a point. The council wants to see you, Sora said, approaching her sister carefully. They are offering full membership, no conditions, no vassalage. Knelt beside a memorial marker someone had placed in the debris. Fresh flowers floated in the low gravity, placed there by recovery workers. What changed? She asked quietly. They are afraid, Sora replied. The entire galaxy watched us destroy the third fleet. They want to know what else we have been hiding. Everything, said. We have been hiding everything. She stood up, brushing lunar dust from her uniform. Tell them I will come, but this time I choose the location. 1 week later, the Galactic Council met in neutral space, aboard a massive diplomatic station. Representatives from 200 species gathered in the Grand Chamber, the same chamber where had been laughed at 3 months earlier. But this time, nobody laughed. Entered wearing her diplomatic uniform, her sword at her side as always. Behind her walked Sora and Earth's delegation was small, but every eye in the chamber followed their movement. Counselor floated in his purple tank, tentacles moving nervously. High Commander's 4 eyes tracked across the room. Admiral was absent. He had been stripped of command and exiled by the government, a scapegoat for their failure. Ambassador, the translator spoke as she reached the central platform. Thank you for accepting our invitation. You offered membership, said. I came to discuss terms. Terms? His mechanical voice buzzed. We are offering you what you requested, full council membership, equal status with all other species. I know, replied, but first we need to establish understanding. She looked around the chamber, meeting eyes with representatives from across the galaxy. Some looked curious, others looked afraid, all paid attention. 3 months ago, I stood in this chamber and requested membership. You laughed. You called us primitive. You dismissed our weapons as obsolete. You offered vassalage instead of equality. Murmurs spread through the chamber. No one heard words. Then you sent ships to our system, continued. You scanned our defenses and found them wanting. You demanded tribute. When we refused, you killed 3,000 civilians. You broadcast it across the galaxy as a lesson. She walked slowly around the platform, her hand resting naturally on her sword. The gesture was not threatening, but everyone noticed it. You made several mistakes, said. Your first mistake was assuming that what you could see was all we had. Your second mistake was thinking that primitive weapons meant primitive thinking. Your third mistake was killing our people and expecting us to surrender. His tentacles curled tightly. We acknowledge these mistakes, they have apologized and paid reparations. Good, said, but apologies are not enough. The galaxy needs to understand something about humanity. She stopped walking, facing the assembled council directly. We spent 10,000 years fighting each other. We developed weapons and tactics to kill other humans because we were very good at it. We had wars that killed millions. We created bombs that could destroy entire cities. We poisoned our own planet with industrial weapons. We learned every possible way to cause destruction. The chamber was completely silent now. Then we unified, continued. Not because we became peaceful, not because we forgot how to fight. We unified because we looked at ourselves and realized we had become too dangerous to keep fighting each other. So we made a choice. We turned all those weapons, all that knowledge, all that violent history outward instead. She drew her sword slowly, letting the blade catch the light. Around the chamber, security personnel tensed, but simply held it up for everyone to see. This sword is 400 years old. My family carried it through wars before existed. It has killed people. It has seen blood. It represents our history of violence. She lowered the blade, examining its edge. When the first came to our system 20 years ago, we were unprepared. We fought them off barely. Thousands died. After that, we spent every day preparing for their return. We studied their technology. We learned their tactics. We built weapons in secret and disguised them as civilian equipment. Sheathed the sword with a sharp click. We did all this while negotiating for peace, while trying to join your council, while hoping war would never come, but we were ready when it did. A small alien delegate raised a tentacle. Are you threatening us, Ambassador? No, said firmly. I am explaining. Earth wants peace. We want trade, cooperation, cultural exchange. We want to join the galactic community as equals, but we will never again be threatened, dismissed, or attacked without consequence. You destroyed our third fleet in 17 minutes, a representative said bitterly from his seat. You have made your point. Have I? Asked. She turned to face him directly. Because I need you all to understand something. The Battle of Saul was not us showing our full strength. It was us showing that we can defend ourselves. Shocked murmurs filled the chamber. You still have not seen our full capabilities, said calmly. The dimensional anchors, the relativistic weapons, the AI drones, the antimatter mines. All of that was defensive preparation. We have offensive capabilities you have not seen because we chose not to use them. Why? Asked, his voice carrying genuine confusion. If you have superior weapons, why not demonstrate them completely? Smiled slightly. It was a sad smile. Because we remember what it is like to use such weapons. We remember the cost. We showed you enough to make you stop attacking. That was sufficient. She walked back to the center of the platform. This is what Earth offers the Galactic Council. We will join as equals. We will share some of our technology for peaceful purposes. We will engage in trade and diplomacy. We will help defend against genuine threats. And what do you ask in return? Inquired. Respect, said simply. Respect for our sovereignty, respect for our capabilities, and respect for our choice to use violence only when necessary. What about your weapons? Another delegate asked. Will you share them with the council? Some, replied. Medical technology, environmental science, communication systems. But our military technology remains ours, just as every species keeps their own defensive capabilities. That seems reasonable, said after a moment. Several other delegates nodded agreement. There is one more thing, added. Sol system is now a restricted zone. No military vessels enter without permission. No weapons testing. No unauthorized scans. We will trade at border stations. We will send diplomats and scientists to your worlds, but Earth itself and our inner system remain sovereign territory. The Sol exclusion zone, said thoughtfully, a protected region. Exactly, confirmed. The council debated for 3 hours. They discussed Earth's terms, argued over details, and proposed modifications. In the end, they agreed to everything requested. The vote for Earth's full council membership was unanimous. After the session ended, Counselor approached privately in a side chamber. His translator crackled to life. Ambassador, I have a question. It troubles me. Ask, said. The sword, you still carry it everywhere. You have ships that can destroy fleets. You have weapons beyond what most species possess. Why keep carrying that primitive blade? Drew the sword again, holding it carefully. The 400-year-old steel gleamed in the soft light. This sword reminds me what we were, she said quietly. Warriors who killed each other for land, for honor, for resources. We were very good at it. She turned the blade, examining both edges. Our ships remind us what we became, builders who learned from our mistakes, scientists who turned destruction into protection, people who chose peace but prepared for war. Sheathed the sword again. I carry both so I never forget the cost of underestimation, ours or yours. The sword represents our past. The ships represent our present. Together, they remind me to work for a future where neither is needed. Tentacles moved in a pattern had learned meant respect. You are wise for your species' age. We learned fast, replied. We had to. She left the chamber and rejoined her team. Sora smiled at her. Full membership, equal status, the exclusion zone, you got everything. We got what we needed, corrected. Now comes the hard part, keeping the peace we fought for. They returned to the silent dawn and began the journey home to Earth. Through the stars streamed past. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was adjusting to its new reality. Humanity was no longer a primitive species to be dismissed. They were equals, respected and slightly feared. 50 years later stood in a museum in Seoul. She was older now, her hair, her face lined with years, but she stood straight, still strong. Before her, mounted in a transparent case, was her sword, the 400-year-old blade that had become a symbol. The museum called it the Blade of Saul, and people came from across Earth and the galaxy to see it. The inscription beneath read, "They laughed at the blade once." A young child visiting with her school asked a question. "Are you the woman from the stories, the one who made the Empire stop?" Smiled gently. "I am one of many who defended Earth, but yes, I was there." "Were you scared?" the child asked. "Yes," admitted. "I was very scared. War is frightening, even when necessary." "But you still fought." "I did what needed to be done," said, "and I hoped that by fighting once, we would not need to fight again." The child looked at the sword. Did it work? Looked around the museum, at the peaceful visitors from dozens of species learning about Earth's history. Through the windows, she could see the city beyond, thriving and safe. "So far," she said, "so far it has worked, and we work every day to keep it that way." The child smiled and moved on with her class. Remained, looking at her old sword behind glass. She thought about those 17 minutes in space when humanity showed the galaxy what they were capable of. She thought about the 3,000 dead at Titan. She thought about all the wars Earth had fought to reach this peace. The galaxy had learned its lesson that day. Never underestimate humanity. Never dismiss their weapons as primitive. Never laugh at the blade. And Earth had learned something too. That strength without wisdom led to more war. That power required responsibility. That the best victory was the one that prevented future battles. Touched the glass case gently, a final farewell to the weapon that had defined part of her life. Then she turned and walked out of the museum into the Seoul sunshine, leaving the sword behind where it belonged. In the past, a reminder, a warning, a promise. They had laughed at the blade once. No one was laughing anymore.